Thanks for nothing, thanks for bluffing. Thank you so much for wearing your true colors to every single fucking function. Had niggas tell me to my face how we were family and how they love me. Why they was skimming off the budget. Now when I see them, they're the ones that's acting funny. People been reaching out to me and I'm on some straight unresponsive shit. I would have so many friends if I didn't have money, respect, and accomplishments. I would have so many friends if I held back the truth and I just gave out compliments.
Welcome back to the Chris Lazar Show. We are about to get Joe on the line. Joe, JP3, is going to come on in just a second here. Joe is a good man. Grand Rapids, Michigan, knows everything about this college football crazy life. And I'm going to dial his number here. We're going to get him on the line. Joe knows a lot. Joe works in baseball, but he very much is in tune with a lot of athletics. And he is on social media, always tweeting, always rustling people over shit. That's right. And we're going to get him on the line right now.
Hello.
Hey, Joe.
Hey.
Hey, you are on the Chris Lazar Show.
Oh wow. It's an honor.
God bless. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. That's good because I'm fiddling around with the volume, so.
Oh yeah, trial and error.
Yeah. But how's it going?
Good. Enjoying what Jim Harbaugh likes to call improvement week. So I've been taking this time to improve myself, just like the Michigan football team, as I'm sure has been doing.
Yeah.
Trying to get 1% better every day.
That's right. And then hopefully at the end you get to 100%, and 100% means like a Big Ten championship.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just like Jimmy says, everybody does a little, adds up to a lot, and so simple that it might just work.
I love it. I love it. When before I just called you, I was kind of introducing you a little bit, but I was just saying that you know a lot about Michigan football, a lot more than me.
I mean, yeah.
And but you are.
You hold on a second though. I don't know if that's true. I mean, you've actually worked within the department before, so.
You know what? That is true.
So that is one thing I'm envious of. Oh, and your fantasy championship victory over me from a year ago, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true too. I call that more luck.
Don't sell yourself short.
I call that fantasy more, maybe a little more luck, because I think that season I had the least amount of ads and drops. Like I literally didn't pick up or drop anybody. I just had my draft, and it ended up working out for the whole season.
And probably like least amount of points out of all the playoff teams. But you know what they say, it's all about who gets hot at the right time.
That's right. That is right. And this season I'm not doing, although I did explode last week, which I think was against you.
And against who was that? That was that was me.
Yeah.
That was me. So you're just my kryptonite, I guess, when it comes to fantasy.
Yeah. It's the rivalry. It's
the rivalry.
It's the championship rivalry.
Well, you're the New York Giants and I'm like the New England Patriots, which is ironic because actually I think that's a really good comparison because when we met in the championship, I was actually undefeated. So you ruined my perfect season, just like the Giants did. So, yeah.
That's right. The Giants are always good for like one run every like 5 years.
Yeah,
So-
They might be tapped out, but anyways, back to college football. Have you watched any games this week?
You know what? I have not, and the only reason
No.
is because Michigan's not playing this week.
Right. Yeah. Can't blame you there.
So I'm like, I guess I'm following a little bit of the scores, but really, I just don't think there's very many good games on until maybe a little bit later. If you want to say that the Clemson and Virginia Tech game
Right.
is a good game, which it is. I mean, top 15
Yeah.
teams.
Clemson's always kind of a weird one to me. They I don't know. I don't know if it's so much they play down to the level of their opponents or play up, but they kind of they have all these close games throughout the course of the year, and they somehow come away with all these victories that are just like of the nearest margins. But yeah, tonight's game will be interesting. Virginia Tech features a quarterback that a lot of he's a local from over on the east side there. He went to Saline High School.
Yeah.
He's actually the son of former Michigan running backs coach and running back Fred Jackson. So that's pretty interesting.
That is interesting. Why not? What do you know the story with that, and how come, why not just go to Michigan?
He was a 3-star recruit, like a fringe 3-star recruit, and he had offers from like a few of the MAC schools and like University of Texas El Paso, Buffalo, that kind of thing. And then Virginia Tech came in kind of late, and they were by far like the best offer. So that's kind of the story of how he ended up there. But I guess with a little bit of a Michigan connection, I'll be cheering for them, and I hope they can pull off the upset at home.
Yeah, and I think they got a really good chance because that stadium, that Lane Stadium, is it's kind of like Iowa in the Big Ten. It's just like a weird place.
Everyone makes such a huge deal out of, Lane Stadium down in Blacksburg, and College Game Day was there this morning. I was watching that with my cup of coffee this morning, getting geared up for the big college Saturday, even without Michigan. But yeah, that place is already rocking, and throughout the years of watching, it's just always been one of those places that's regarded as one of the tougher places to go in and try to pull a victory out of, especially those night games.
Things are always so much different at night. The students are rowdy, like the ball flies off your fingertips a little different, and like you get hit under the lights. It just sounds more bone crushing, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's definitely more exciting. And speaking of night games, we've got a big one coming up next week.
We do. And I don't know, that must be the first time in I don't even know how many years that State has played Michigan at night. Because in my lifetime, I don't really remember a night game.
They've never had a night game either at Michigan State or at the Big House. I know some of their 3:30 kickoffs, by the end of it almost kind of seems like it's at night, especially here in the Midwest during the fall. And I mean, some of those games can go 4 or 5 hours. But yeah, it's actually insane to think like at about the time that a normal 3:30 kickoff ends and how everybody is in the stadium at that point or outside if they don't go to the games. That typically the games are ending by the time that one's even going to start. So that's going to be insane. I've heard that they've got to like double security. They have to install a bunch of like public street lights everywhere to make sure everything's lit up and safe and everything. So that'll be an interesting atmosphere down there in Ann Arbor. I'm
actually afraid to go down there for that game.
Man, I don't really know what to think. I love Ann Arbor. I don't think you can beat a college Saturday on the golf course with friends before the game, and then, going to the state. Whether you go to the game or not, I mean, somebody's going to pull you in and welcome you to watch the game somewhere. But yeah, I mean, the night game, I've only been there for one night game, and it wasn't Under the Lights 1. It was actually Under the Lights 2, and that was a lot of fun. I had a friend who actually got arrested going into the stadium because we were minors at the time. But yeah, it was rowdy. I mean, were you at Under the Lights 1?
No, I wasn't. I was not there. Now, when you say Under the Lights,
I know you were in school at the time.
Yes, I was. Yep. But the reason I didn't go was just those uniforms. I was too pissed off at those uniforms.
It was the uniforms. Oh, so you're gonna pin that one on Adidas.
I actually, you know what? That's not the reason why. I didn't have season tickets that year, but
No.
those uniforms I actually didn't really mind. They were kind of weird. Like, everybody said they looked like hockey sweaters, but I didn't mind them.
I would say that they were probably the best ones of the Adidas alternates.
Mm-hmm.
The Outback Bowl ones, if you remember those were all right.
Yep.
I actually didn't mind the ones that we wore against Bama.
Yep.
In the
I
Cowboy
remember
kickoff that year, but see, the problem with those two is, like, if you don't win, everybody kind of remembers like that jersey as like a game where you just got destroyed, or you had a close loss like we did in the Outback Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So by default, I think we got to go with that. That Under the Lights one is the best alternate uniforms for Adidas there.
And when you say Under the Lights 2, do you mean the Penn State game?
No, that was actually that was Notre Dame. So that's the one where Devin Gardner, I'm trying to remember. That was Devin Gardner hit Jeremy Gallon very early over the middle, and Jeremy Gallon spun out of like two would-be tackles.
Yes.
And then the other memorable moment from that game is when it was Devin Gardner. We were up by, I think it was at least a couple possessions. It would have been like a 2-possession game. And Devin Gardner rolled out in the end zone, and he was about to get sacked in the end zone for the safety, and he kept like spinning backwards as he tended to do. Except this time he threw it, and I think it was Lewis Nix who dove for the interception in the end zone, if you remember that, for a touchdown. I
don't remember that play, but the when you said the Jeremy Gallon thing, like that came to me.
Yeah. So that was that was the second big house, and then the third was the Penn State, where they wore the all blue uniforms, which I actually wasn't a fan of. They just kind of looked. I thought they were kind of weird.
Yeah. Those were weird. The all blue. It almost is weird.
Yeah, the all blue with like they had the neon yellow with like the stripes in them for the numbers, and it was just that was a little. It could have been good. Like, I think an all blue would be all right, but the way that they did it just wasn't. It wasn't good.
I'm trying to pull up a picture of it right now, actually. Oh yeah.
Yeah. They're a bit of an eyesore.
Yeah, I didn't like these at all. Almost as bad as I didn't really like the all maize that we wore against Florida.
Really? Yeah. So I've only watched a few highlights. I haven't rewatched the entire game. I was there, of course, and I thought they looked decent. I mean, I thought they looked better in person than some of the first pictures that I saw that surfaced on Twitter. I will say they do look a lot better than the jerseys that the public can buy. I don't know what the difference is, but they probably, I don't know if it's just that they look better over like football pads.
That's the thing, Joe. We just don't have like 25-inch biceps and rock hard abs.
No, unfortunately not.
So, Joe, I wanted to get your take on that Under the Lights game next week in state. And I was before you had come on, I put my foot on the ground. I said, yeah, we're going to win that game. I don't think state's very good, and it's at home, and I think it'll be close, but ultimately Michigan wins, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they definitely win. So I'll give you a prediction final score. I think it's going to be somewhere in the realm of like 34-13, which of course is, a pretty big spread there. But when you break it down, I mean, first it'll be, I guess the big question mark obviously going into the game, the quarterback situation for Michigan. Are we going to see Wilton Speight back? If he does come back, is he healthy? I know Harbaugh in one of his pressers last week said that there is no competition still.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a interesting remark. So if we do see Speight, I would assume that he'd be at least like 90% to 100% ready to go. We don't know exactly what the injury is, other than they said it was a soft tissue injury. I think regardless, I feel safe with either quarterback at this point with that kind of a prediction. I think we're going to see a lot of ground and pound. And honestly, I mean, I don't know if Michigan State has the offense, especially against our defense this year, which, as you know, has been pretty impressive. I mean, you've got guys flying all over the place, and I think the biggest just wow factor about that defense is if you think about how many guys that they've lost to the draft off of that defense, and they're arguably just as good as a unit this year. And I think a lot of credit obviously goes to Don Brown. And, I mean, I can't think of any ways how Michigan State's going to score multiple touchdowns against that defense.
Michigan's defense this year in the Big Ten, they're actually leading the Big Ten Conference in total defense at 203 yards a game. Next closest is Minnesota, who I don't really think Minnesota's played a lot of people, but they're coming in at second. And you're right, they lost. I remember the first game, I think it was actually that Florida game where the announcers were saying, they lost, they're returning one starter from last year, but all of those guys played a lot last year. So it's not like they're brand new on the field. It's just that now they're just a starter.
They've definitely got a lot of reps in. There was a lot of garbage time last year for a lot of those guys to get reps, and Harbaugh is one of those coaches where if you're good enough, you're going to play, or he's going to find time or somewhere to play. Devin Bush saw a lot of time on special teams last year, made a lot of tackles, had a lot of big hits. I totally agree. Even though it was only one returning starter, they did have a lot of those guys got a lot of experience last year. I think the question mark was just going to be to see that defense is such a communication-based defense, as they all are, but especially this particular style of defense is, the question mark was going to be to see how they gelled as a unit. But everything has been as advertised as we heard coming out of fall camp. The defensive line is just nasty. Rashawn Gary doesn't quite have the stats that a lot of people think that he would, but just from being there and watching a few of the games in person, he's so disruptive. Even when he's not getting credited with a tackle or a sack, he's doing a lot of things that the offense really obviously has a game plan for. Who's having a breakout year. He's added a lot of weight and strength. Obviously, he used to be kind of like a kind of specialty pass rushing, come in on like third down type of defensive end, but now he's an every down legitimate defensive end. And I think a lot of that has to do with the play of Rashawn Gary. I mean, Chase Winovich most of the time just has one-on-one matchups where Rashawn Gary's got to deal with a tackle, a chipping tight end, and then a running back in the pass pro. So, yeah, I mean, that defensive line is as advertised, and if they can continue to play as they've been playing, they've got a shot against anybody.
They do. I think I'm reading this right here. 18 sacks so far in the year, leading the Big Ten. I'd be interested to see what that ranks nationally. Guarantee you it's top 5.
Yeah, it's got to be up there. And I mean, not even when they aren't getting sacked, they're punishing the quarterbacks, and all the quarterbacks have come away from the games. If you read some of the quotes, like the quarterback for Purdue last week was just saying that's like by far the nastiest defense that I've ever gone against. They were showing all kinds of stuff, and what I thought was there wasn't. What wasn't there, was for like a split second. It's just that defense is just insane, and it's only going to get better because a lot of those guys come back next year. So
that's like the most that's our strength for sure, is the defense. No question about it. Last week against Purdue, it seemed like the only way Purdue got up and down the field was using every single trick play that you could ever see. And of course you're going to get yards and you're going to score a nice cheap touchdown that way. But after the first time they went through their trick playbook, the second time through, we were there. We were sniffing out like the backdoor tight end pop pass, and we got to the screens, those like cheap little wide receiver screens, and I don't know if there was a flea flicker in there, but we fucked that up pretty good.
I mean, credit Purdue with opening up the playbook there. I mean, but obviously, I think trick play has got to complement your offense, not your offense can't complement a bunch of trick plays. So yeah, I do give Purdue a lot of credit with trying something that trying to see what was open, what was going to work as far as that goes. But again, at halftime, I mean, these are the things that we haven't seen in a long time. Is the adjustments, the halftime adjustments are just insane. I think I don't know what the second half stats are, but Michigan, I believe, was outscoring teams 43-0 this year in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
And I think that's, I think that's the Harbaugh way, is to kind of, just grind teams down and just put them away in the fourth quarter. It's almost kind of like it kind of reminds me, that Purdue game kind of reminded me a lot of the Mayweather-McGregor fight. Purdue came out early, just swinging, going for it all. Hung in there over halfway through. They were looking good. They were up 10-7 at halftime, and then toward the end, Michigan just outlasted them. And then at that point, where it was able just to ground and pound and put that game away.
I completely agree. I do. The one thing that I am a little concerned about with Michigan, and I've always been concerned about with Michigan, this is like going back to the Lloyd Carr days, is the one thing that Michigan State has is a quarterback that can run a little bit. And I always, for some reason, every game I watch, whether it was like Tim Tebow, although we did win that game, or who else was out there? Like JT Barrett or Braxton Miller. We just don't seem to contain these mobile running quarterbacks.
Troy Smith, yeah.
Troy Smith,
Young,
Vince Young, yep.
Yeah, and again, I think this is kind of a different chapter as far as that kind of stuff goes. JT didn't do a whole lot against us last year. I think I'm trying to jog my memory with how many like crazy athletes we haven't played a ton of them.
Air Force.
I know you can't. Yeah, I was about to say that Air Force game. We actually, for whatever it's worth, we held the Air Force to their lowest offensive output. I think it was like years. I want to say.
Yeah, which is saying something.
I mean, go ahead.
Oh, that's saying something considering they run the ball every single play.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, it's just I'm continued to be impressed every week by Don Brown, and I'm kind of at the point where it's, you know, my faith is fully on, you know, in on that side of the ball. I don't. With another thing you have to think about, with 2 weeks to prepare for this Michigan State game, I mean, he's getting 2 weeks to look at Michigan State film, and I know they're gonna be kind of like, they're not gonna be full out Purdue where they're gonna throw 15 trick plays at you, but they'll have 2 or 3 in there, and they might bust one. But I just don't see it. I mean, the athletes are so much better on the defense than in years past, where I think, you know, we can't contain a lot of those QB issues that we've had in the past.
Yeah, I think I agree with you this year. Although it still always concerns me, but I think Lewerke's got, after this year, I think next year is where you really see Lewerke kind of take a huge step and start to be more like now you're starting to get into conversations like Drew Stanton or Connor Cook or Kirk Cousins. I mean, I think this year it might be just a little too early. The team's not very good around him, although he can run the ball. We'll see next year.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that he can run, and he's a lot quicker than I thought he was coming into this season. Mm-hmm. Where he does obviously need to be better, and where a lot of Michigan State fans have been frustrated with him is his accuracy, and that usually comes with any kind of quarterback that has some wheels. But that's, you know, and that's something that you can improve on. So I definitely think he's a guy that can win them some ball games in the future. It's just kind of right now. This year, I mean, of course, he's won them some ball games, but yeah, this year I don't see them coming into the big house and winning that game. I think we beat them in all 3 phases: offense, defense, special teams. I mean, I just don't see it. It's going to be night game at the big house. He's going against the best defense that he's ever seen. That's had 2 weeks to prepare for him. Even if our offense isn't clicking, I still think that with the brain power that we have on the offensive side of the ball, that alone account for 17, 20 points just by itself. And outside of shooting ourselves in the foot and giving them a bunch of points, I don't see it as being a very close game.
I think it might be a little close just based on last year, and I was a little surprised at the score last year, but that's why I think this year might be a little close. And D'Antonio, for some reason, ever since he came to Michigan State, they just always get up for this game. Like, every single year.
I mean, this is, I mean, and no disrespect to them or anything, but this is, this is like their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, this is their game. I mean, I'm sure there are fans out there that would take a 6-6 season over like a 9-3 season if it meant that they beat Michigan.
Oh yeah. There's definitely people out there.
Yeah. And so, I mean, yeah, this is their game. This is, one that they have circled on the calendar, and yeah, they'll come to play. I just don't think it's going to be enough, and I'm very interested to see how this game against Iowa goes, especially after last week they got thumped by Notre Dame, who has been suspect. They've looked really good at stretches this year, and at times have looked kind of blah, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, that I completely agree.
They took it to Michigan State last week, so we'll see what Iowa does. Who's also, as you know, coming off more of a heartbreaking loss than getting thumped.
Oh man, Iowa, like I had mentioned earlier, just a weird place to play. I mean, every time Michigan has played at Iowa, since I can remember, we've lost at Iowa. Even most notably, I mean, last year, where we were undefeated going in, number 2 or 3 in the country, and just a weird place to play, especially at night. And there's nothing else going on in that town except for football. The whole city shows up.
In the state, much less the town.
I mean, no offense to Iowa as a state. I mean, and God bless it, but I think it has to have been over 20 years since we've played, or since we've beaten Iowa at Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I think it would have definitely been during the Lloyd Carr era,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember obviously last year that didn't go well, and then I remember like Denard Robinson maybe throwing 2 or 3 interceptions at Iowa one game. And then I remember Brady Hoke, the Brady Hoke year. We played there, but it was a day game, and it came down kind of toward the end, but they won.
I remember that one too. Yeah, and I remember the first one you talked about. I think Tate started that game, and then Denard came in later.
Denard came in. Yep.
And we had a chance to win that game, but then, he threw that late interception.
Yeah.
So I'm actually looking right now, Joe, to see when was the last time. And you know what? I think it was 2001.
Wow.
Yep, 2001, 32-26.
That would have been Drew Henson.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because every other year... Iowa won in 2003, and then actually 2005 also.
So that was like one of the that was a disappointing year, 2005. That was I think that was Henny. That was the Henny and Hart and Jake Long. That was their sophomore year, and they were all kind of hurt throughout the year, and they went like 7-5, and then we lost to Nebraska in that crazy Alamo Bowl game.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Oh my gosh,
band was on the field again.
Yeah. Hey, we did though beat State that year.
Yeah, we did
in overtime.
Yeah. The guy with the crazy the memory from that game for me, the guy with the crazy hair, his last name's like Pecco.
Oh,
He
yeah.
plays, I think, he plays for the Cincinnati Bengals, I think now.
Mm-hmm.
He recovered a fumble, one of like Mike Hart's. I think it was a Mike. No, it might have been a Chad. I think it was a Chad Henne throw that ended up not being a forward pass, and he scoop and scored it for like 87 yards. I mean, he was getting oxygen on the sideline afterward. It was just the most incredible thing ever. But yeah, that was a crazy game.
That I remember that guy, because he was like Samoan, wasn't he? Or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and he just had like this big bush of hair sticking out of the back of his helmet.
yes, I do remember that guy. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
But
basic.
yeah, 2005, that's still been a long time. I mean,
It has been every other year. Yeah, we've lost every other 2009 we lost, 2010 2010 was at home. 2011 we lost, 2013 last year. Yeah. Iowa's a weird team.
yeah, it's there's a night game there from now. I'm taking if Iowa's I'm taking the points with Iowa.
Yeah.
I'm officially convinced that Kinnick Stadium is like America's equivalent of the Bermuda Triangle. Like there's just some weird stuff that happens there at night.
There is. I remember they showed it on the whatever station they had. I think ABC had the Penn State Iowa game last week, and they did like a little one of those like highlights or like histories. And yeah, the last 3 times, I think, last 3 or 4 times a ranked team came into Iowa, or like a top 5 team or whatever, they lost. I just don't understand it. That's just
Yeah, it was like Michigan was one of them. Michigan State was the other from like 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's just where good teams go to die for a weekend. I mean, and it's just the weirdest stuff happens. Like it's just not even like these like clean games. It's just very weird stuff. Like Wilton Spate getting hurt toward the end of that game. We had like back-to-back roughing the punter penalties. We had that face mask that wasn't a face mask.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of weird stuff. I mean, yeah, I definitely anytime you've got Iowa on the schedule, at night it's at Kinnick. It's an uneasy feeling, and it's even with this even though Penn State pulled away, that doesn't change my opinion on feeling not so great about ever heading into that place.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank God we don't play there this year.
No, and I don't know when the next time we go back is, but it'll be too soon. I can say that much.
Now, just speaking of going places, though, after Michigan State, and I think before the season, which, by the way, for the people that are listening, the hopefully a lot, but probably not a whole lot right now, but me and you were supposed to do this a while ago, and well, it didn't really work out, but I'm really happy we're doing it now. But let's say, looking back on the season, if there were games that you were circling on the calendar, I think Florida was one of them, just because first game of the year, ranked team, it's in Cowboy Stadium. You circle that one. You circle Michigan State because it's the big in-state rivalry. Then you have these 2 away games, which I think we're going to win one, lose one in Penn State and Wisconsin. And what are your thoughts on going to Penn State in a couple weeks with Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, so obviously he's Saquon Barkley is a beast. We saw that in the Iowa game, and we've seen that. And scouts already now are comparing him to, and some say that he's even better, which is obviously quite the compliment. They haven't announced the time. It doesn't look like for that Penn State game, but everything that I'm hearing is that is also going to be a night game.
Damn.
And night games at Penn State. So the last time we were at Penn State, we had Jake Rudock at quarterback, and that wasn't a night game.
Yeah.
So it was just the last time we were at Penn State. We won.
Yep.
It was like an afternoon game.
Yep. But then there was that night game with Hoke.
The good old triple overtime game there where Allen Robinson outjumped. I don't even know if so much he outjumped Channing Stribling there toward the end of regulation. I think Channing Stribling just terribly mistimed his jump.
Yeah.
He jumped like way early, and then it just kind of, that was bad. I remember Brendan Gibbons missing like 3 field goals.
Yeah.
One was one of them set up that last drive of regulation. I remember him missing just an absolute gimme in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a 32-yarder straight on, or something like that.
It's because he's left-footed.
Yeah. Yeah. So after all of this, I think road games, tough games are tougher, and then those night primetime road games are insane, especially against a quality opponent, which obviously Penn State is. I'm not feeling good about that one, and I think we take a loss there, unfortunately. Do you like a score prediction right now?
Do you have a score prediction?
What's that?
You do have a score prediction? I think it'll be close. And it depends on who we have a quarterback, maybe. Yeah.
So just knowing what we know now as of today, I'm thinking it's kind of like a 23-30 type game, or something in there, a bunch of field goals, to get to 20, like the 23 number, even maybe 20. But yeah, either way you paint it right now, I don't have a good feeling about that one. Actually, look out just a little bit. I'm not ready to call it a trap game, but in between, so after we get Michigan State at home, and then we got at Indiana in between, sandwiched in between Michigan State and Penn State there. So I think that at Indiana could be a little bit interesting, but I'm not ready to call it a trap game.
Yeah. Yeah. And Indiana they'll play tough. Like they played Ohio State tough earlier this year.
And I think that Indiana game is going to be, depending on what kind of game plan Michigan State comes out with, I think that at Indiana game might be our first big true test for our young secondary. Now the catch with that is obviously the quarterback has time to throw. Don Brown loves to make the quarterback uncomfortable, but if they can get off some passes like they did against Ohio State, they've got some big, tall wide receivers who are pretty good, and they've made some circus catches. So it'll be interesting, and I think that'll be our first true test for our secondary coming about halfway through the year on the road against Indiana.
Indiana right now too is fourth in the Big Ten in passing yards per game. So yeah,
that sounds about right.
There is that. I know what you're saying about the secondary. Because who are our starters? We have Cannell, and I can't name anybody else.
He's been hit and miss this year. Got a bright future overall. Corner, we got Lavert Hill.
Oh yeah.
Who's Delano Hill's little brother, who's really come on. He's had some nice pass breakups. Corner right now. Then Khaleke Hudson, he switches, but he's like a hybrid safety linebacker. He plays that Viper position.
Oh yeah.
So he's kind of all over the place. So whether you want to count him as he'll be a safety, or he'll be kind of in the secondary on some plays, and another place he'll be causing havoc up near the line of scrimmage.
With that Viper position.
The Viper, doesn't that just sound awesome? Like the Viper, like if you're a recruit and Don Brown was sitting on your couch and he looks you in the eye and says, "You're going to come to Michigan and you're going to be our Viper." Like, I mean, aren't you already sold?
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the kind of guys that he